And welcome in to the shift. This is episode 66, and I have a very special guest. He's been on the show before, and I don't believe Nick Earnshaw has interviewed Matt Musico yet. I could be wrong on that. Matt just might come in here. You already see him on the screen. I don't know. Nick will do that thing where he has the person backstage and he brings them on. That's a little too much for me. I only got so much I can do. Maybe I'm a little older. He's younger, whatever. You don't want to hear me talking about that. But it's perfect timing. Perfect timing. I know this is a baseball show, but me being a Phillies fan and this person being a Mets fan, this is only perfect. Phil's coming off the walk-off. JT Realmuto, Cal Stevenson, Buddy Kennedy, both Met killers. I mean, this is just perfect. So, Matt Musico, Mr. MLB Daily Dingers, Mr. Baseball expert, Mr. Fortunately, right now, Mets expert. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on.
I'm good. Has Nick interviewed you, or has he not?
I'm trying to think, because I think I've been on 2 other times when you guys have been paired together for the shift, and I think one of those times he was on, and another time he was like sick or something.
I remember him apologizing to you, and you lit him up. It was wild. You were like, "Oh yeah, how dare you!"
In my nature,
like,
for sure.
Who I am. Like, why would you ever do that? Totally your personality. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But spoke about the Mets there to start. I don't know, man. This team has been, arguably the best team in baseball since May 30th. I think they still have the best record since May 30th. If not, it's close. That's not the point. What they did, in all seriousness, they did just lose 2 of 3 to the Phils. But first team to 90 wins now. What are your thoughts on the Mets? No, Lindor had to leave in the second inning today. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts right now on those New York Mets?
Well, I mean, obviously Lindor leaving is probably of the greatest concern. He's been kind of like that steady presence throughout the entire year. I mean, he's only missed maybe one game at this point, one full game. So, how he's feeling in the back is tricky. So you don't necessarily know unless I missed something else that happened today. I don't think so. I think it's still just his back, but that's going to be the greatest concern. I think if you told any Mets fan back in February that this is the spot they were going to be in the middle of September, I think everyone would have taken it, especially because I think a lot of people were not necessarily impressed with how the winter went, because we've been used to these big splurges over the winter, the two winters before that. But Stearns and company did a really good job of just putting together a team that eventually gelled. It took them a little while because they had a terrible May. They were very up and down first couple of months. They started out 0-5, and then they caught a little fire in the middle of the month. And then Francisco Alvarez went down in LA, and then things got really dicey from there through the end of May, pretty much. And, as all Mets fans know, June is probably one of the worst months of the year. But this year, it wasn't. It was probably the best month of the year that got them back on the track that they're on. And like you said, since May 30th, I can't remember their exact record, but they're like somewhere between 25 and 30 games over 500. So they've really gelled together. It seems like they actually like being with one another, which, who knows how much that was actually true last year. This is just a lot more very visible chemistry. So, I mean, it's exciting, but for right now, now it's crunch time. They got to put up or shut up. Hopefully they have Lindor, and hopefully he's healthy. I mean, whether he plays or not and whether he's healthy or not are 2 separate questions. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see his status, because I think the Mets have probably the toughest record down this stretch compared to other contenders through the end of the regular season. And they're right now on the outside looking in.
Yeah. So now the record since May 30th, and now we're getting close to October here. And, you talk there about how Mets fans were feeling about, the team coming into the season. Do they have a real legitimate shot to, if they get in the playoffs? And I think they still have the 3rd wild card spot right now, I believe.
I think they're a half game out right now.
Half game out. Okay. So they're hovering right around it. So do you think if and once they get in, do you think they have a legitimate shot to make a run?
I think they do because of their starting pitching. they have enough offense where they are able to produce some runs, but the starting pitching, I think, has outperformed much more beyond expectation for a lot of people this year. And I think that's where, especially when you're talking about a 3-game wildcard series, anything can happen, especially if you have, a good front 2 or, 3 solid dudes that you feel comfortable running out for those 3 games, plus the ones that you're not using also that maybe feel comfortable coming out of the bullpen as well too. So David Peterson's been great. Sean Manaea has been great. Severino's been great. Who knows what Senga's status is going to be, maybe coming out of the bullpen, feeling comfortable doing that. All they got to, as a Phillies fan, especially from a couple of years ago, you just got to get into the dance and then get hot at the right time. And the Mets got hot when they needed to at the beginning of the month to put them in this position where they're at right now. And what's gotten them there has really been the starting rotation and the offense. The offense has been pretty good. I think when we look at overall this season, looking at WRC plus, I think they're top 10 offense in the league. So, it may not be as flashy as we would have liked it to be. And not thinking about Alvarez having kind of a down year offensively compared to last year. Alonso has hit 30 plus homers, but still, it's not as productive as probably people thought he would have been. But then guys you wouldn't have expected, like Mark Vientos, Luis Torrens being the backup catcher, still being productive in that role. They find ways, and obviously Jose Iglesias, those types of guys have found a way to be productive and help kind of boost up that offense. I feel like they have enough offense to be able to find a way to scratch out a run or two. And the starting pitching can kind of help carry them later into games than we saw last year.
You really believe in the starting pitching? I don't know, man. David Peterson, I saw what he did today. He was great. He was not the reason they lost. Reason they lost.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining, but not the reason they lost. Do you really believe in the starting pitching that much? Sevy, look, it's a little overdone. Sevy's having a good year. I'm glad. I'm happy for Sevy.
Mm-hmm.
Happy for him. I like this stuff in New York with the Yankees, not talking about the Mets. I like the stuff in New York and with the Yankees in the Bronx. But Sean Manaea having a pretty good year for himself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Quintana, he's kind of hovering around. He's been, but you really believe in them? No Senga. No, Senga is at least coming out of the pen, right? So, you really believe in the starting pitching that much?
Hey, man. You said you asked me if they had a shot.
Fan in you. This is the Mets fan in you.
Well, look, they're not the best team in the league. They're not the best starting rotation in the league, obviously. Right. But they have guys who are able to battle deep into games if they have the opportunity to do so. You look at what some of these guys have done. Peterson's had a great year. Is he going to start game 1 of a wildcard series? Absolutely not. But you have guys who have been around the block, like a Sevy, like a Manaea, and like those types of guys. Like they would be able to go into that situation and not feel intimidated by it. So I'm not saying that they're pound for pound better than other starting rotations or other starting pitches that they would face, but they could hold their own. And Quintana has had kind of an up and down year, but over the past month or so, he's been a lot more productive with just his start-by-start consistency. So, these are guys that have been around the block. They've been in the playoffs. Manaea has, I think. But, it's kind of like sporadic with the A's, obviously.
I think, A's, but
yeah. And in someone like Severino, he knows what it's like pitching in New York late in the year into October as well, too. Not that he's necessarily had the results, I don't think, in October. But he knows what it's like. It's not like these guys are just coming in, sorry, I just happy to be here if they do get there.
Yeah, I can. It's good. It's good you brought Manaea there a little bit because I remember 2022. It was with the Padres. Yeah, the Phillies lit him up in the NLCS. Right. Thank you for bringing that back up. You've done a great job here so far.
Yeah, thank you. I feel great. Feels great.
I know you do. But yeah, I think as a Mets fan, you can probably appreciate what the Mets have been able to do at this point. You mentioned a couple other guys there as well. I want to talk about Mark Vientos. The guy has had a very good season. I guess this would be considered a breakout season for him. I think he has a 145 OPS plus at this point. So what has impressed you? Did you expect this to happen? What is he, a second, third season now? What do you like about Vientos this season in 2024?
Well, it's amazing what happens when you give somebody consistent playing time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what's most impressive is the fact that he, like, the mental resiliency from him. You know, like he had that, I can't remember who it was against, but he had that walk-off home run early in the year when he was up only for like a week or two or something like that. And he made some kind of comment about just like not worrying about anything else that's happening and just trying to like attack, you know, like typical baseball speak, but like, attack the advantages, the opportunities that he has. Yeah. But you can kind of tell like he's got nothing to lose. And it kind of between like him and Beatty kind of reminds me of Rafael Montero and Jacob deGrom coming up at the same time. Whereas like Montero had all the hype as a top prospect, and while deGrom was also a top prospect, I'm pretty sure he started in the bullpen, I think, like for a very short period of time. So like nobody was really expecting him to come out and be like the NL Rookie of the Year, which is what he did. So I see like a lot of parallels in this situation between these two guys. Whereas, you know, Beatty's the more highly regarded guy, but he hasn't necessarily put it together in the big leagues. And Vientos just had this opportunity to actually get consistent playing time, and he's run with it. I mean, it's finally, I can't remember the last time they've had someone other than Wright kind of like hold down third base on a consistent basis in a single year at this point. So it's been kind of a third base in Mets history has been a revolving door outside of a couple of like significant time periods in history, like pretty much from what I'm thinking in my head, Howard Johnson and David Wright, when we're talking about like maybe like 4 or 5+ years. So, I mean, there's still a long ways to go, but, you know, this guy could always hit. People didn't really worry about him hitting. They were worried about trying to find a spot for him to play in the field. And when they brought in JD Martinez, a lot of people were people were happy because obviously it was JD Martinez, but then also there's another faction of people like, well, I thought we were going to let these guys play and see what happens. And then, you know, how we think things are going to play out back in February almost never happens that way. And look at how many at-bats he's gotten and how big of an impact he's had.
Yeah. All right. And somebody else that hasn't, just got called up a couple days ago, Luis Angel Acuna. What's the excitement from Mets fans from this kid? Gets his first hit, comes in the second inning today because Lindor had to sit. What are your thoughts on this kid? What's the excitement for Acuna?
Well, I mean, it's great. It's great to see top prospects come on up. I mean, I think when they were talking about September call-ups and stuff, people were kind of clamoring for Acuna, and Mendoza essentially said, "Look, like he's got to play every day. There's not really a spot for him right now." And then like a week later, or 2 weeks later, he's up in the big leagues. That's how quickly things can change. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, he's a young dude. He's got really exciting tools. He's got a lot of speed, which this team could always use, it feels like. So, I mean, it'll be interesting how he fits into the puzzle here down the stretch as they're fighting for a playoff spot as well, too. But, I mean, he could be an interesting weapon just based off of his skill set.
Okay. Like, I was gonna say I like to hear it. I'm not sure if I love to hear it as a Phillies fan.
Well, it's not going to bother the Phillies very much. I mean,
listen. We'll get to the Phillies in another podcast in a little bit. You know what I mean? But this is the shift. We stay unbiased here on the shift. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we try our best. Yeah, we as Nick isn't here, but you know what I mean. I try my best. But last question on the Mets, and I must ask because you know it's been big thing this year for the Mets. Pete Alonso. What are your feelings? What are the vibes around Pete? Still having a good year, but coming up on being unrestricted free agent. What are you thinking about Pete? Will he resign? What do you think he's going to do?
Well, I mean, you know, he's got Boris at the head of the ship there, so it's going to be interesting. I still don't see him being anywhere else. I mean, I think. Even though he's had a decent year from a power perspective, I mean, it's not been the type of year, you know, I think he was hoping for. Obviously, when we look at like his triple slash and like the rest of his production and stuff like that, he's always been kind of a streaky hitter, I feel like, but like he's had some significant stretches where he's just had a hard time getting it going. And in the past, especially, it's almost like he was like him and Lindor were the engines that revved the offense. You know, if they were hitting, then the offense was moving. If they weren't, then the offense was, you know, down the tubes. I feel like this year they have a little bit more of a balanced offense, probably thanks to Vientos, especially. that they're able to produce in other areas when Alonso is not hitting in the middle of the lineup. So, I mean, but still, I don't see him being anywhere else. He said pretty plainly that he loves being a Met specifically and doesn't really want to go anywhere else. And I think I think he's being honest with that. I don't think he'd kind of just like blow smoke, kind of like in the way, I don't want to have no hard feelings, but kind of like how DeGrom did it. Saying how he's thought about being being a lifelong Met and stuff like that. But right. I think Pete would really be happy to do that. But he hired Boris for a reason. He's going to shop around. He's not going to get what he wants. This feels to me like Boris is probably going to try and play it similar to how he tried to play with JD Martinez before he signed with the Red Sox. I think because he's coming off that crazy half season with the Diamondbacks, and he was like trying to get him $200 million or something like that, and he ended up for $5 and $110 or whatever the contract was. I'm not saying that's what Pete's going to get, but if that report from Joel Sherman was accurate, sometime in the middle of this year, it was like, I can't remember the years, but it was around $150 million that they decided to decline. I mean, I don't really see him getting much more than that, especially if it's going to be, he's already, I can't remember how old he is specifically, but he's over 30. He's not going to get more than 6, 7, maybe 8 years if he's lucky. I think somewhere within that $150-200 million range is probably a comfortable spot for the Mets specifically. I think they would be okay with paying up a little bit more to keep him around, because then you're thinking about, all right, who do we replace him with? Essentially, you could pencil him in for somewhere between 30 and 40 homers and 85 to 100 RBI every year. Like you can't. Those guys don't just grow on trees. Could it be Vientos if he moves over to first base? Yeah, it could be. But then who plays third? Maybe Beatty. Maybe you go grab someone else like a Bregman or something like that in free agency. But there are a lot of permutations that can happen, and I'm sure you probably agree with this too. A lot of things that will depend on how the offseason goes for the Mets specifically will probably have something to do with Soto as well too.
Yeah. I want to see Soto in a Phillies uniform. Okay.
So
let's
who doesn't?
So let's get to we're gonna move off the Mets now. Thank gosh, that was 17 minutes of just a lot. Not great feelings for me. I know you want to. Okay, so MLB. Let's transition. Well, I guess we'll kind of keep in the National League to start. You talked about the Mets be, you could see the Mets making a run. I know that's a lot of your emotion coming out of you. You want to see that. I get that. But let's focus back in. Let's be real, okay? So, who is the biggest threat in the National League? Just to get, who do you like as the favorite to get to the NL? I mean, Diamondbacks have been hot. Padres are what, like 3.5 out of the NL West? They've been insane. Last couple of months. Phil's first to 90 wins. Fun wild card race. Who do you like in the National League? A couple of weeks out from October.
I mean, I feel like I like the Phillies, man. I mean, they've done it the past couple of years. They've gotten deep into October, so they have the experience. They have the hunger of coming up short. They have really good rotation. They have a great offense.
Thank you.
I mean, it's kind of hard to, and they've put it together for a prolonged period of time this year. So I feel like it's kind of hard. And then once you get to October, you play at the bank, and it's just, a ridiculous home field advantage, probably more than any other park in baseball, I feel like. So, I mean, I feel like it's kind of hard for me to think somebody else is going to have a better shot than them on paper right now. Obviously, we get a couple weeks from here towards the end of the regular season, see how people play out. And this year, if the Phillies finish in one of the top 2 spots, I mean, they get a bye, which they haven't gotten in the last 2 years. Is that correct? Right.
Yep.
So who knows how that could play? But again, they're a seasoned postseason team. They've done this before. They know what to do to get ready. So, I mean, it will be interesting to see how they handle it, as opposed to them playing the wild card series and then playing a team who's been rested like the Braves were the last couple of years. So I think them, though, they're the first one that comes to mind for a team that has kind of like nothing to lose. Like, I kind of would love to see the Padres make a run. I feel like they're kind of in a similar boat as the Mets, where it's like last year was a year they tried to go for it. It crashed and burned. They kind of got rid of some people, and the pieces they got back have just been just the right mix of players that they needed to make a run.
That's true. I mean, what do you think about the D-backs, man? I mean, maybe it's a little different for me as a Phillies fan because of last year and everything. But like legitimately, they did make a World Series run last year, lost to the Rangers. But I mean, we spoke about the Mets being one of the best teams in baseball since May 30th. I mean, the Diamondbacks have been one of the best teams in baseball over the last couple of months. And I just think, Matt, and again, maybe it's because, of last year's NLCS, but like, I legitimately look at the Diamondbacks. I think they're a really good team. I think like top to bottom offensively, I think they're underrated. I think their rotation, if everything gets right in the postseason, I mean, there's a lot there. I mean, yeah, Jordan Montgomery's had a bad year, but I mean, who says he's not capable of, giving you some good starts in the postseason. And their bullpen, I think, is pretty good too. So, I mean, what do you think about the D-backs? I think they're a threat, but maybe that's just me.
No, they're definitely a threat. I mean, what they finished with 84 wins last year,
correct?
Something like that, and they're already at 82.
Yeah.
They showed how dangerous they could be in October, especially against what we thought was a more high-powered Dodgers team. So, I mean, they have all the pieces there. They have like a young, exciting team, and they made a lot of really good, shrewd moves over the offseason. They got off to that sluggish start, but unlike the Rangers, they were able to figure it out and turn it around and like do what we thought they were going to do. So yeah, they're a much better team than last year. They're performing like a lot better of a team than last year too. So I mean, yeah, they're definitely a threat too. I mean, it's, you look at each of these wild card teams. I mean, and obviously, we haven't talked about the Braves yet. Like they're all like equally dangerous. It's not like, and it's kind of like up and down the league. Like we may not have a 100-win team this year for the first time in, I don't know, probably like close to like a half a decade or something like that. Like all these teams are like very close to one another. I mean, the Phillies are at 90 wins and the Braves are at 81 wins, and that's like the last wild card spot. So I mean, it's not a huge disparity, I think, from top to bottom like that. So like anything can happen.
Yeah, it makes for fun. I think it makes for fun baseball.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. What about the American League? Who you like in the AL?
Well, I mean, I feel like the Yankees are playing a little bit better down the stretch than I thought they were going to. And I'm kind of surprised the Orioles have kind of faltered a little bit. They've kind of been like, trading punches back and forth. But a team that really excites me is the Royals. I think they're a lot of fun to watch. They got great pitching. They have what I feel like is an underrated offense. And they got Bobby Witt Jr. leading the way as well too. I think they could be a real threat to make a run, and I think that could be interesting. I mean, they just clinched their first winning season since 2015, so the magic could be in the air at the K.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, so the Royals, I actually, even without Pasquantino,
Hey man, they're still doing it. I mean, I think right when he went down, didn't they kind of scuffle a little bit, but I feel like they found their footing since he went down.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Bobby Witt's having almost a 10-war season. I mean, so that's actually where I want to lead to next. So we got a Royals Padres World Series from Matt. So that's what I'm going to put out there. Okay, just for the sake of content. He didn't.
Yeah, I'm sure the league would love that. The ratings would be through the roof. Yeah,
that would actually be interesting. I would actually enjoy. Well, I mean, obviously I love the Phillies in the World Series. And you're delusional about the Mets, so just stop with that. But I would actually enjoy that. Those are okay. AL MVP though, Aaron Judge. I think he had another tank today, right? Did he? He did. Yeah. But just for the, he had before the last couple of days, he kind of went through a rough stretch. It seemed like he was going to get the 60 homers. Probably not now. I mean, you never know. I mean, Judge can, if he wanted to, probably. I'm saying that, right? And he could probably break his own record. 62 a couple of years ago. But let's talk about MVP though. You mentioned Bobby Witt there. Not far behind as far as just like B WAR goes. He's like, I think he's like 0.5 points behind Judge. He's 9.6 and Witt's 9.1. Who do you like for AL MVP? Everyone's been trying to do the Lindor MVP thing in the NL. We'll talk about that in the other podcast if you want to listen to the Phillies podcast. Phillies Today for WIP. Little self promotion there on my own. Okay,
little shameless plug.
Yes, exactly. But what do you think of AL MVP? Probably not like Henderson or like Duran or anybody like that. But Judge, Witt, who do you like?
I mean, I gotta go Judge. I mean, I know he's been scuffling.
Mr. Daily Dingers, I know. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. But I mean, he was been scuffling, and then when I was watching some of the replays today before he hit the tank, he's still hitting 320, even though he's been like on the interstate since his Paw Patrol appearance or something like that. So it's like, I mean, it's just ridiculous the kind of production he's had. Like that 100-game stretch after his like slow start that he had, like slow for him at least, it was just insane. And it's kind of in any other year. Is this kind of like the was it 2021 when Vlad Jr. hit 48 homers and had like his breakout year, but then Ohtani did his Ohtani stuff and hit and pitched, and like in any other year, Vlad would run away with the MVP. And the same thing with Witt. Any other year, he would probably run away with it. He's had a terrific year, deserves it. But I just don't think anyone, it's not like Witt isn't hitting homers. He's hitting 30 plus. He's probably 30 year again this year.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not like he hasn't produced like those sexy numbers that the voters would like to see. It's just that Judge has done more of it in a bigger media market, which, like it or not, it's going to help him there.
Yeah, and look at as far as Yankees go, he's a likable guy. I think it's hard to like hate Aaron Judge. All right, and I want to finish this segment as far as MLB goes with talking about Ohtani, because I know who's not a big Shohei Ohtani. I was going to say you're a big Ohtani guy. Everyone's a big Ohtani guy. Great for the game, great for sports, just great all around. And me and Nick talked about this on our last episode. I do think it's an interesting conversation, just because this year Ohtani's not pitching. Even if he doesn't get the 50-50, which he most likely will, 95% chance he does. But let's just say Ohtani does have a 50-50 season, basically does already. Where do you think this season ranks? Not just like baseball history. Where do you think it ranks for Ohtani? Because this is a different type of year. Ohtani's had some legendary years already. Legendary years in sports history. So where do you think this season? I don't put you on the spot a little bit because it's compared to his other years. But where do you think this season will rank for Shohei Ohtani for himself?
I feel like it's got to be the top for probably for a couple of reasons. Well, this is the first time he's on a winning team his entire career. First of all, and he's like essentially carried that team offensively, and like he's always flashed some of the speed. I mean, he's had a couple seasons with at least 20 steals, and stuff like that. But it's like, it was one of those things, like the beginning of the year, they were like kind of talking like, I'm going to run a little bit more. We'll see what happens. And then he's going to steal 50 bags. And it's like, even though like he's not pitching, he was also obviously rehabbing, but it's like, it's probably going to help him a little bit, where it's like, he's not pitching this year, but in the back of your mind, like he also pitches. I mean, that's always going to be a thing. It's like he's doing all this, and he also pitches, even if he's not pitching this year. I don't know if that's going to be something in the back of like a voter's mind or something like that, but it would be for me, just kind of like knowing like this guy is ridiculous, and like he's finally like in the limelight on a team that's supposed to contend, and he's about to do something that's never been done before. I feel like for me, like for those reasons, that would be at the top.
Interesting. Yeah, I just think like the other year for me, I know who cares about my opinion for this podcast, because you're the superstar here. I know, but I mean, look, like his other year, I think, what was it? One of those other years, he had like ERA under 2.5, and he hit like 40 home runs. I'm just saying, I don't know. 50-50.
I mean, it's hard.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be pretty cool to like look back at Ohtani's career and be like, he did all those like Ruth like pitching and hitting years on another level. Plus he got 50-50 the year he gets Tommy John, and it's insane. It's just unbelievable.
He's a beast, man. It's unreal.
Yeah, we've seen him a lot on Daily Dingers, which is where I want to end this episode of the show, episode 66. Actually, one question before we get to the Daily Dingers: who's impressed you the most this year, or maybe who's surprised you the most as far as the long ball goes? There have been, you have Judge, who's approaching 60, potentially. You have Ohtani, who's approaching 50. Is there anybody out there? Kyle Schwarber, unfortunately. I was hoping Schwarber would get to like 50 this year, but he hasn't.
Well, I mean, he may get to 30 for a third straight year, right? He's hit 40 last
year. He's made it to 30 again. But I mean, he might get to 40. He might get to 40. I don't know. Who's somebody where you're like, man, didn't expect him to hit that many this year? Who's somebody?
That's a good question. I mean, I think even though he hit 30 last year, I've been pretty impressed with just like the overall production from Brent Rooker.
Yeah,
He's already at
36
36.
right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm sure like an easy answer would be someone like Soto, but we all kind of assumed he would be nearing 40 as long as he was healthy. So I feel like Rooker is been someone that was been someone that has kind of surprised me to take like that next step.
Mm-hmm.
Not just with homers, but just with everything. Because I think last year he was probably hitting, I don't know. I'm going to make a mistake, but probably around like 230, 240. And now he's like around 300 with 36 homers. He could probably finish. He might finish with 42. Who knows?
246 last year, and now he's at 301. 246 with 30 homers. Now he's at 301. I didn't even realize he was hitting over 300. 301 with 36 homers. Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. Yeah. Him and probably Tony Taters, Anthony Santander.
I was going to say, he was my pick. I mean, he's at 41.
Yeah. I mean, I think what was his previous high? It was probably like 31, 32, something like that.
So it was 33 in 22.
Yeah, and he hit 28 last year, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. So, I mean, he's taking a big jump. I mean, his average is taking a little bit of a dip, but I mean, hey, it's platform year, hit 40 plus homers. It's not a bad way to get into free agency.
Right. You need it. You know what I think you need to have for Daily Dingers is like you need to have some sort of not like obviously like whoever like Otani is going to win they had the most homers in the NL, most homers in the AL will be judged. I don't know. It doesn't like Pitching Ninja. He does like awards for the end of the year. You need to do some. I don't know what it would be. Maybe get creative with it. You know, creativity is important in the stuff that we try to do here, both of us. So I don't know. Maybe you should. Maybe you thought about that before. Maybe
no, I haven't. I have not thought about that.
You know what I mean? Something like that. The Daily Dingers Awards or something like that. Like most underrated or slugger, something like that. I don't know. It's just something.
No, I like that. I'm gonna have to write that down in my diary and look at it later.
Okay. All right. So speaking of Daily Dingers, I want to end the episode here. By the way, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been a while.
Of course, man.
Appreciate you. But Daily Dingers, what you're consistent as heck. And social media, I love it. Again, what has been up with Daily Dingers? What's going on with the site? And tell people about it if they don't know. And anything new, tell us all about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the backbone of Daily Dingers is sharing home runs on social media every day. It started on Twitter that way, and then has moved to Facebook and Instagram as well too. So that is pretty much a part of my daily routine, sharing home runs every single day with the social media world. During the baseball season, it's more of a on this date in home run history, essentially. And then once the off season hits, it's more of you get a little bit of a sense of my stream of consciousness. The players I'm thinking about that particular day, essentially, or, as I go through my day, I'll just like think about a certain random player or write them down and then like look for a home run later and stuff like that. So if you want some home run videos to break up your doom scroll on social media, definitely give MLB Daily Dingers a follow. Still have the blog going strong. Something else that I've been working on is a Substack with a newsletter that goes out 3 times a week. It goes out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So on Monday, I share essentially what I'm going to be sharing that week on social media. So if you want to get a look before I actually share it that upcoming week, you can sign up for the newsletter on Substack and get that every Monday morning. And then Wednesday and Friday, it's a little bit more of a grab bag. I end up bringing a lot of the stuff that I have on the blog into the Substack and just send it right to your inbox. So for right now, as we near the postseason, every Friday is like postseason Friday, essentially. So kind of sharing all the postseason content that I have and making some new stuff as well too. But yeah, find MLB Daily Dingers on Substack. If you sign up in the welcome email, you'll get a little quiz that you can take. It's a little Sporkle quiz where it gives you all of the 30 MLB teams. You get 5 minutes to name the single season home run record holder for each team as well too. So got that, and then I have this here. I don't know if you can see.
Blurry.
Yeah, I got my blurred background here. Oh,
you had it. If you went closer.
Oh, there
you go.
So what I've done is take a bunch of the team by team content that I had on the blog and kind of put everything together into a book. So the book that I held up there was single season home run leaders. So just a team by team look at each team's single season home run royalty. It's available on Amazon in paperback.
Did you tell me about this? I'm gonna buy it. Like ASAP.
Well, it's I don't know if I did. I mean,
come on, man. What is this?
I made the ebook first and launched it around I think around spring training time. I posted it on social media, man. I guess you didn't see it. I guess you don't follow me closely enough. But
no, I know. I'm stumbling. I know.
But yeah, so it came out first as an ebook. Then I asked people on Instagram, like, how do you like to read your baseball books? Ebooks or paperback? And people said paperback. So I made it into a paperback book. I will update it every year because at the end of every regular season, I update the content on the blog too. So I'll update the content in the book. And then I'll also do it for team by team career home run leaders this winter as well too.
That's sick. I need to get the book ASAP. I'm sad that I didn't get it before, but also I just got a few texts. The first one, I'm getting a bunch of texts. Excuse me.
Oh, it's very popular. So
yeah. So people are it's a bunch of texts about what you're saying is.
Nice.
So no. So one person was saying, a couple of people are saying where the Phillies Daily Dingers have been at. Like you're not posting enough Phillies content. Like not enough Ryan Howard, Jason Worth.
All right, that's false with Ryan Howard. I give Ryan Howard plenty of love because I mean he was.
Well, I'm telling you what the people are saying. The people are saying it's not enough. You know what I mean?
Well, we got October rolling around, man. I know for a fact that there's going to be probably a Jason Worth, like I think a walk-off homer, probably,
or his beer league softball home run.
Well, yeah, that's a classic.
You posted that?
Too. I don't think I have.
Come on. What are your slacking?
I'm gonna have to. Well, it's off-season brings creativity.
Yes. So. Yes. Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. And the other texts were they're not getting enough TikToks. They're saying you're on TikTok, but we want more TikToks is what people are saying.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I don't know, man. I'm old. You talk about you being old. I'm way older than you are. So I don't know. I gotta condense the nonsense a little bit. I'll have to get back on there at some point. But
yeah, I'm telling you, man. TikTok, that's where all the kids are at, man. You gotta get the kids to see all the dingers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know. It's funny because like I will share like these things like I don't know, like mid 2000s. For me, I was in like, high school, beginning of college, mid 2000s. I'm like, this is not that old, but for someone else, it's like, wow, I've never seen this before. It's like,
right.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, a bunch of Howard homers like Jim Tomei, Phillies homers.
Yeah.
Like Pat Burrell. That's what the people are asking for, man. That's what all these.
Bat. Yeah.
Pat the Bat, little Bryce, a little Casty, hitting after you get plunked by the 96 mile per hour changeup. That's what we need. That's what we need. But hey, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been too long. We need you back sooner rather than later. So let them know.
We can hope for a Mets Phillies NLCS, and I can come back on. How about that?
I'm like, it's funny, like especially around like the sports radio around here. People have been talking about that, but like, who would you be? Would you be scared to play the Mets in the divisional round or the CS? And like, to be honest, man, like I'm really not scared. Like I'm not scared of the Mets. I respectfully,
I mean, it's not like they're like a powerhouse team. But I mean, I think it would be interesting.
Of course, I would love that.
They always like play each other pretty well, and like I feel like the Phillies play well at City. The Mets usually play well at the Bank as well too. Yeah. So I mean, it would be a fun series to watch. That's for
absolutely. Sure. And I Phil's Braves has been fun last couple of years. I know it hasn't been fun for you, but
I mean, as long as the Braves don't win, I'm okay.
Right. I was going to say, I know, I think you appreciate that to a certain extent.
Yeah.
All right. So social media, where can they find you?
On Twitter X, I guess I have to be correct here.
I know. I gotta be.
Instagram and Facebook. For Instagram and Twitter, it's at MLB Daily Dingers. On Facebook, search MLB Daily Dingers. That's pretty much what it is everywhere. Myself on Twitter, I really just retweet MLB Daily Dingers stuff. But I'm Musico 8. So, but yeah, follow MLB Daily Dingers and join the fun for the Daily Dingers.
And for some bad Mets takes. We appreciate those as well.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, someone's got to do it. It's got to be Matt. All right, that has been Matt Musico. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning into episode 66 of The Shift. Hopefully Nick will be back. He's too busy being a politician. as of late. So episode 66 of The Shift. Thank you so much for tuning in. Talk to you guys soon.